Africa Games, right? Can you share with this committee how much that coverage was for and whether payment has been made for same?
Thank you so much. Yes, GBC was the official broadcaster for the African Games, the 13th African Games, and I can confirm that full payment have made to GBC.
Do you have per chance what the amount was?
I can't recollect the exact amount, but I know that it's in the excess of $3 million US dollars.
You paid GBC
yes.
in excess of $3 million US dollars for coverage of the All Africa Games.
Yes.
Chairman, I think that I would rest here, and maybe the next time GBC appears before us, because most of the technicians who worked on the All Africa Games have still not been paid. And so we wanted to ascertain if you have paid and how much has been paid. Chairman, I'm grateful.
So that's what will happen with the sports minister. There's a public account committee, the teacher who also appeared before the committee this week. The Public Accounts Committee, that teacher who also indicated some 15,000 cedis was paid wrongfully into his account. The Public Accounts Committee had some issues about that. Let's hear from that, and we'll go into the sports ministry matter.
Was more than the amount you were expecting. Did you know at that time when you received the salary?
No, please. When I got the money, I thought it was my money until the auditors came in.
But like we say in local settings, you have chopped the money. Mr. Sampson.
Yes, please.
You've chopped the money.
Yes, boss.
I see. All right, so we are grateful for your sincerity. You agreed to pay 500 cedis a month.
Yes, please.
At a point, you stopped in paying. What is the challenge with that? Once you have agreed to pay.
In fact, I started paying, and after I paid 2 months, I had a problem, so I couldn't continue anymore. So I went to the office and then discussed it with the director, and I promised that I'm having an investment, which will end ending of this month. So if the money comes, I'll try if I can pay everything off, or if I'll pay part of it.
How much is your investment?
Okay, the investment is supposed to be 18,000.
Well, yes, 18,000. You are able to cover the remaining amount, but probably maybe investments are meant for. We will not stretch you that much. Take your time. And please pay the money. We want you to pay the money, but don't break the bank in paying the money.
Okay.
Yes, so please, if by end of month you have all the money and you think you can pay, kindly.
I see. So that's the Public Accounts Committee hearing with this gentleman who has been described as a GES officer. He received 15,000 cedis payment into his account wrongly. And Mr. George, you're a member of the committee. I want to understand that last statement that one of your members made about, this gentleman, yes, he has to pay back. You have given him a payment plan when he has an investment of 18,000 cedis, which you can ask him to pay off immediately because he has admitted that the money was received wrongly. What's the work of the Public Accounts Committee? Because in the end, after exposing all of this, then what?
Thank you, Alfred. The Public Accounts Committee is one of the standing committees of Parliament, and we do quite some work. Basically, we review the work of an officer of parliament. That's the Auditor General. The Auditor General is an officer of parliament. He does his report, submits it to parliament. Mr. Speaker refers it to the PAC. We sit on it, meet those who have infractions, and then do our report to plenary. Now, I think on the back of, I don't know if it's Martin who went to court or if it was Franklin, there's now the ruling on surcharge. No, I think it was Occupy Ghana. Occupy Ghana that did that case. So now we refer you for prosecution by the Attorney General. It appears that our Attorney General is more busy meeting judges than handling those prosecutions. So we don't see those prosecutions happen. But basically, we do what we have to do. We don't have prosecutorial powers. And so I remember that in the last parliament, there was a gentleman who had appeared previously before us, earlier in the year. He had given us a setting like he was an auctioneer. What we realized was he was cooking the auctions and buying the state properties he was auctioning, lowering the rates and all of that. And when he came again to appear before us on another infraction, he lied about it. It was clear he was lying. And Abeji immediately asked that the parliament has a police unit.
Yes.
The parliamentary police unit should immediately arrest him, detain him, arrest him, and charge him for perjury.
In fact, we have that video.
And
this was in 2020, right?
Yes, 2020. And at that time, the current majority leader, Afenyo Markin, was a member of the committee. Afenyo took the chairman of the committee on seriously and said that the committee had no such powers because we are different from the Ugandan Public Accounts Committee. Afenyo may have been right because we don't have the powers of prosecution. In fact, criminal prosecution in Ghana resides only with the Attorney General. And so we can only make references, referrals. We've made those referrals. The Attorney General, like I said, is preoccupied with other things and is not focused on these prosecutions because quite a number of referrals have been made to him. But in this particular instance, when the deputy ranking member, OPK, made those comments, the chairman stepped in. If you play that video in its full, you realize that the chairman stepped in and the chairman insisted that the payments must be made from that 18,000 investment. Because, but you see, what we realized is that there's a cartel going on. In one of the instances I handled, I think that was in Golu or so, someone had left office for 20 months or had not been reporting to work as a teacher for 20 months. Meanwhile, the person was validated every one of the 20 months and was being paid. You cannot tell me 1 month, 2 months, I can take it that, okay, the person thought maybe this person will come back, the person had some issues, but 20 months. 20 months, they keep validating the person. Clearly, there was an instance. In fact, in one of the other instances the committee discovered, Ghana, the person had left to the US, he had Jakpa to the US for 2 years. But you know, the validation, in the system, in the GES system, they have people who are validators. And the validators have a code that they use to do the validation. He was the validator for his circuit. He left the country with a code and kept validating himself for 2 years from the US. And the payments were being made, and every time he hit an account, another head teacher who was still in the service was withdrawing the money. So you could see that some sort of cartel. We've referred all of this to the Attorney General. Like I said, we can't prosecute. It's up to the Attorney General to prosecute. So
yes, and I want us to look at what happened in 2020 when the chair of Public Accounts Committee, James Kuchaveji, ordered the arrest of one person who appeared before you. That was an outlier for me because we've not. Yeah, but
we're called out. The committee was called out and told that
so in this instance,
authority.
Yes, let's look at that video. Let's take a look at that.
To come and deceive this committee, to take anything.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Get away with it.
No, Mr. Chairman, not like that.
We are going to lock you. We are going to lock you. The police will take a statement from you, and that statement will be used against you in the local. We will not prosecute you, but the government will take over. So, do we have the Ghana Police Service Parliament House already? Yes, can you take the 2 officers to the station?
Well, so that's what happened. Then the Public Accounts Committee chair ordered the arrest of this person. The police moved in and put handcuffs on them.
Like I said, several lawyers.
So can't
called
you
us
do all
out.
of this?
Well, I would have wished that we had the power to do that. We reviewed our standing orders, but still, we cannot assign and ascribe to ourselves the power for prosecution. The Constitution is clear.
So this was just a one-off situation.
Yeah, this was this was a position that the committee had met in conclave and decided, let's explore this, because we're getting a lot of backlash that we're just a talk shop. You work, you do your reports, you expose the rot, nothing happens. But once we took this step, there was all kinds of legal pushback, and we've had to go back to what the status quo is, refer them to the Attorney General for prosecution, and now we need to have the Attorney General prosecute these instances. I don't know if you want us to go into the GFA.
Let's go straight to the sports matter. Now,
Yes.
after that question and the answer that you got from the sports minister, the GBC Director General also spoke on Unique, as one of the radio stations of GBC, and so essentially making the point about the fact that the GBC received only $105,000 out of the $3.6 million thereabout that was paid. Now we have the GBC Director General's letter, which we'll put on the screen right now. It says it is important to clarify that GBC was the official broadcaster but not responsible for the technical production of the games. The technical production was outsourced as GBC did not have the equipment to produce the games. Also, the following organizations were responsible for the technical production: PGS, Quality Media Productions SL, the Production Room, TPR. Then the Sports Ministry eventually also issued a statement, and we have excerpts of the Ministry of Youth and Sports statement, essentially making the point that they, as host of the 13th African Games, appointed GBC as the host of the broadcast. I'll put it on the screen right now. Under the arrangement, GBC was expected to provide one dedicated 24-hour channel for the broadcast of the 13th Africa Games. And GBC shall provide all services, personnel, and equipment needed for the following: broadcast management, international broadcast center, production of games from all venues, and montages, bumpers, signal distribution. Also, the following services and technical features were included: the live recording and broadcast of the opening and closing ceremonies, 7 to 10 hours of a daily super feed for live broadcasts and playback, satellite space segment and turnaround, editorial management crew, a 1-hour daily Africa Games roundup program, and also the fees. It is agreed that GBC will provide services in the amount of $3.6 million. That the Ministry of Youth and Sports is solely responsible for the payment of the service provided. That the Ministry of Youth and Sports will transfer the CD equivalent of the cash to the GBC for payment. And GBC says 105,000 is what they received, plus 100 CDs that they were paying the crew from GBC, who, the cameramen and others, 100 CDs a day. My colleague cameramen here are not happy hearing this, and that is legitimate. But then, Mr. George, after this response and the ensuing statement that have been issued by both GBC and the Ministry of Youth and Sports, does it bring clarity to the matter? Does it settle the matter for you?
Well, absolutely not. In fact, there have been more revelations since, with all the exposés, because everybody's trying to clean and extricate themselves from the mess.
True.
But it's like being in sinking sand. The more you pull, the deeper you sink. When I asked that question, it's because I'd received complaints from GBC that from their technical staff, some of them had not even been paid, and some of them had been paid just 100 Ghana cedis. So when I asked the minister, and he says, "Oh, we've paid in excess of $3 million," immediately the ripple effect starts in GBC. People are saying, "Hey, more than $3 million has come and we go 100 Ghana cedis." So the next morning, Professor Alassane goes on TV to say that we only received 105,000. Then he writes officially to the Public Accounts Committee and copies me because he says I asked the question. Now, in that letter, he says that he is surprised that the minister is making allusions that over $3 million was paid to GBC. I mean, that was diplomatic language for saying the minister lied. Because if a minister sits on national TV under oath to say, I paid in excess of 3 million to an institution, and the head of that institution comes and says, well, I'm surprised the minister is saying this, it means that what the minister is saying is not true.
In their letter, they said, the ministry said they were going to pay a CD equivalent to GBC.
Oh, well, I'm building the case. You let me build it so you follow.
Indeed.
So once he does that, he goes ahead to say that they only benefited 105. That's the word he used, benefited $105,000. And then proceeds to list 3 companies as having been used as subcontractors. Now, it would then suggest that those 3 companies earned 97% of the contract. And GBC, which was the one that put in the bid, earned only 3%. From the get-go, that lets you know that GBC was simply a front for something that was happening. Now, further digging has shown that Professor Lassan was not honest in his letter to Parliament, to Public Accounts and to me.
The GBC director?
The GBC Director General. Because the ministry has now put out a letter from Professor Lassan, where Professor Lassan wrote to the ministry requesting payments to subcontractors. And in that, if you take GBC out, there were 5, not 3. But in his letter to Parliament, he stated only 3.
Yes.
He marked 2 entities that were paid. Why he chose to do that, he has to answer to the Ghanaian people. Because you are providing Parliament, a House of Records, with information on who the subcontractors are. You had 5 other contractors. Per the letter you wrote to the ministry, a copy of which the ministry has put out that we've seen, you requested for payment to 6 different entities.
I see.
Now,
so it's not just PGS, Quality
Media. It's not just PGS, Quality Media,
production room.
And the production room. Silicon Productions. You requested that they should pay them $165,000. You also requested that Positive Communications should be paid $20,000. Now, when we started doing further digging into this matter, it turns out that, because when you look at the document, PGS got the chunk of the money, almost 2.1 million euros. So I started asking, what does PGS do? Look, PGS was paid almost 2.1 million euros to sit in Spain and do what they called offsite production.
Off-site production.
Not one person from PGS came to Boteman or Legon Sports Stadium. GBC cameramen manned the camera, manned the equipment. Then they gave feed through a satellite uplink. And those guys sat in Spain to do offline production, and they charged 2.1 million euros. That will be almost $2.5 million. Are you saying to me that we don't have the capacity in Ghana to do that production that was done by PGS? Who is the one who negotiated with PGS? And you see, the question we must be asking ourselves. Professor Lassan says that he's unaware of the money. Meanwhile, he wrote to the minister, and the minister made payment of $1 million to GBC on the 15th of March. On the 22nd of May, he made another payment of $1.5 million. Then subsequent to that, Lassan wrote and said, pay $1 million directly to a company. So why would he write in his letter to Parliament that he's unaware of the money? Why would he go and stand on GBC's platform and say they only received their bank trails and only $105,000 came in? That's not factual. Now, what even shocks me is why the ministry in the first place paid 3.6 million to GBC.
Why does that shock you or concern you?
Sporting events, broadcast rights are big money. The Premier League that we all watch, when they are selling their rights for broadcast, they sell them in like 4 or 5 year slots. They run into billions of dollars. And that's why at the point in time, for those who remember, in Ghana, DSTV did not have Premier League.
it was some other network that came for some 1 year
with the
orange thing, because they had bought the rights, because they bid more, and then eventually the money they paid for it, it ended up collapsing. I can't remember the name of that company.
Yeah, it's
good.
They had this G.
Yes, it starts with G.
Yeah.
Now let's ask ourselves, why is it that the All-African Games were broadcast in at least 40 African countries on 40 national TV stations? GBC provided live super feed, the super live feed, to all of these places. We did it for free. We gave out that content for free. The African Cup of Nations, the broadcast rights are sold in hundreds or tens of millions of dollars.
I think it's a gateway. That's what.
Yes, gateway.
Yeah.
Yes. So the question you ask yourself is, why is the government of Ghana, who should be selling and making money from hosting the All-African Games, selling the rights, rather be paying somebody to do the broadcast? Do you get the question?
Instead of earning money.
Instead of earning money, we have now put in money into companies that we don't know really who is fronting for those companies. That's one. Now, the GBC tells us that they did this outsourcing because they lack capacity. That's what Professor Lassan said.
They didn't have the technical capacity.
How many sites did the All-Africa Games happen from? 2.
Yes.
Boteman and Legon. Only 2 sites. This same GBC that says that they don't have capacity. There was three sites.
There was Cape Coast.
Cape Coast as well.
Yes,
there was football, I think, in Cape Coast. So Cape Coast, Boteman, and Legon.
Yes.
So two in Accra.
There's some that took place at the conference center. Yeah.
So 4 centers.
Areas. Yes.
So 3 of those centers in Accra and 1 in Cape Coast. Fantastic. Okay. Now, the same GBC had sent a proposal to the Ghana Football Association, GFA, asking for sole broadcast rights for the Ghana Premier League. And GBC was offering the GFA $5.5 million.
$5.5 million?
To get the sole broadcast rights to the Ghana Premier League over a period of years. 5.5 million. The GBC claims that it had the capacity to broadcast live, and on every weekend, at least we have games in about 8 or 9 centers across the country. The GBC could, because I think there are 18 teams in the league. There are 18 teams in the league, right? If there are 18 teams in the league, that's 9 games. 9 games every weekend, literally. And the GBC says that they had the capacity to produce for the Premier League and air, and they wanted the sole rights. Meanwhile, they don't have the capacity to produce all Africa games. They were willing to pay 5.5 million, but now they have taken our 3.6 million. In fact, the minister again has to answer for an outstanding 100,000, because when you look at the minister's letter, he says he paid 1.5 million on the 15th of March. On the 22nd of May, 1.5 million. Then he transferred another 1 million. If you add that, 3.5 million. The contract said 3.6 million.
Yes.
So we have change of $100,000. He has to let us know where that is. But this whole thing is just getting murkier. Because you're asking yourself, you say you can produce Premier League. Now, but you know what even kills me the most? And everybody who has DSTV or GoTV will remember that the All Africa Games was on DSTV and GoTV. GTV, or Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, gave the feed to Super Sports for free. That's what they're telling us. And Super Sports aired it in the over 30 countries that they are in Africa and collected money. Let's clap for the GBC. And Professor Amil Anasa. They gave the feed for free to Super Sports, for Super Sports to air across Africa.
So, per your record, Super Sports didn't pay any money to GBC?
As far as I'm aware, no. And I'm challenging Professor Amil Anasa to come and tell us how much he earned from giving the feed to Super Sports, and show us the receipts of the payment. Because I've checked, there was no money that went to GBC. Yet Super Sports got that feed for free, and Super Sports charged the viewers, because it was not on a free channel on DSTV. It was on a paid channel. So that's what I'm saying. This thing, we've used our state money to produce and give to private people to make money. It's the same way we've just found out, again from these games, and that one the minister has to answer. $15 million was used to feed athletes for 18 days. Meaning that every day we spent 10 million Ghana cedis on food.
$15 million
Jesus Christ.
was spent on food or feeding the athletes. $15 million.
Yes. Alfred, look, we are getting to a place where the thing is no longer making sense. It's no longer making sense. So every day, 10 million. Why? The food they cook, they use the blood of Jesus to do to cook the food. Was the blood of Jesus the seasoning that they used to cook the food for the athletes at the All Africa Games? 10 million Ghana cedis. How many school buildings would that build in your constituency and my constituency? Every day. And I don't want to say anything because I still don't have evidence of it. But we are hearing the name of the contractor.